Kitty, hi, welcome.
So nice to be here, Kate.
Oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled that you could come.
Thank you.
Yes, we've been talking about this since November, I believe, having you on the show. So we
Yep.
finally made it happen.
That's right.
Okay, tell me about yourself. You are the executive director from High Hopes in Old Lyme, right?
Old Lyme, yep. We're located on 36 Townwoods Road in Old Lyme. High Hopes Therapeutic Riding is a therapeutic riding program. We're 46 years old, so we were founded in 1974. Yeah. And I've been involved for 33 years. I started out as a volunteer.
Did you?
And then an instructor and part-time barn manager and then program director for many years, and then the last 13, 14 years I've been the executive director.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
And you are a physical therapist by training.
No, I'm not. I have come into it from the animal end. I have a BS in animal science from Cornell, and I was a horse enthusiast, and I am a master instructor in our field, which is, speaks to my longevity and experience. But we do have physical therapists, occupational therapists, mental health professionals, speech and language, all kinds of experts that work with us at High Hopes as well.
Well, I've been there, and the facility is phenomenal. So in 1974, tell me who had this great design, the vision to create this space. This facility is phenomenal.
So our founder was a woman named Sis Gould, and her gift, her mother had an amputation, and Sis and her family, they knew the benefits of education. They were very strong in education, but also the gifts that the horse can bring to the individual. And it was Sis's dream to be able to support folks with learning disabilities predominantly, and we started at Essex Elementary School with a group of kids there who had learning disabilities. We were nomadic for the first 15 years of our existence.
Really?
And we moved from place to place, didn't have a home per se, borrowed horses, borrowed equipment, and it wasn't until the mid-1980s where we had a leased facility, and by 1990 we were into our beautiful facility on Townwoods Road in Old Lyme.
Oh, well, congratulations, because
Thank
that's
you.
really quite a feat. Now tell me, you have gotten some pretty outstanding awards as a facility and for the work that you do as a...
Well, I would say, again, I think in speaking to our longevity in the field, we are a member of a national association, Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship International. Sis's legacy to us really was being bigger than ourselves and helping to support the industry through training and education. But she also supported all of the staff in helping out the National Association. So we've always been very active in that. So some of the awards that you mentioned speak to volunteer awards, national awards, professional achievement awards, horse recognitions, things like that we've had. And part of that is the community awareness and the immense community support that we have.
And you do have good community support, so that is phenomenal. Now, I was looking on your website, which I have to say I greatly admire.
Well, thank you.
Beautifully, beautifully done. And you said you have a communication specialist?
Yes, Sarah Crisp is our communication manager. She works with a number of different, actually, marketing firms, but Julia Balfour's team has been one that has been instrumental in this, as well as we work with Over Above and Dreamscape, and again, speaks to that wonderful community support to help a nonprofit.
Oh, beautiful. And I read that there's 21 instructors, 25 horses, and horses may not be very expensive themselves, but their maintenance is phenomenal.
Right, absolutely. We have 25 of the most amazing individual equines, all different shapes, sizes, colors, breeds. They come from all walks of life, all ages. Because of the type of population, we work with a lot of different participants, some very young, some on the older end, some that do mounted riding activities, unmounted horsemanship activities, carriage driving. And because of that, we need, wide horses or tall horses or short horses or horses that like to be groomed or horses that pull carriages.
And the horses have to be pretty special to do the kind of work that they're doing.
Indeed, they have to, first and foremost, like people. That's what we look for in our horses. They have to be patient and kind and really look to the humans that they're interacting with for guidance and support. They typically are horses that have kind of been there, done it in life. They've had some other life experiences that have enabled them to realize that, you know, the world's an okay place. The horse is a flight-fright animal, so when something scares them, the natural instinct is to leave, and that doesn't work well in our field. So
No.
we look for horses that are well trained, that are very amenable, that are very patient. We also need horses that are sound in body and in mind. So they have to have good responses and be suitable for the work in whatever capacity they're doing.
So the first thing you must do is to take them through some kind of an evaluation process when you hear of a horse that you might be adopting. Is that the phrase that you would use?
Yeah,
Okay.
you know, some of the horses are owned by us, so they're actually either given to us or purchased. Some are free leased. And in a couple of cases, we don't actually have the ownership, but we're allowed to use them until such point that we no longer will. And then they will revert back to their owners. But yes, every horse, when someone is interested in donating a horse to us, they will call, we will gather information, and there's a few things right off the bat. You know, again, they have to be sound, they have to typically have been in some level of work, they can't be too old or too young. We don't take, for instance, stallions, things like that.
Oh, gosh.
So, and you know, then what we do is we'll either do a site visit, most often go out, see how they are in their location, watch someone ride them, we might ride them, and then if all of that looks good, we'll bring them in on an extensive trial. And during that trial, we ride them, we try to expose them to everything conceivable that they might see in the setting. We set up mock classes for them, and we want to see how they adjust to the environment. It's not a job for every horse.
No.
It's not physically challenging like racing or jumping, but mentally it's challenging. Our horses have a wonderful life. They have the best veterinary care. They see the chiropractor and the dentist, and you know, they have the regular manicures and all of the other accoutrements that they might. We have a 126-acre farm, so our horses live outside as nature intended. They have shelter from wind and rain. They live in companionable groups, and they are carefully fed on an individual basis every day and groomed and cared for. So, you know, from that perspective, horse owners that are looking for that next home for their horses, it's a pretty appealing place.
It's pretty idyllic, I would say.
Yeah, and you know, we try to value also that each individual horse likes certain things. Some might want to do the carriage driving, some might prefer to do the unmounted work, and some the mounted work.
Well, great. And I was reading, too, that you have 652 volunteers. And now that is a pretty amazing number that you can tout. Tell me about that.
We couldn't do what we do without the volunteer corps, and I think it's an understated fact for High Hopes. It is that number incorporates all of our volunteers. So sometimes we get volunteers that come through their work. Eversource, for instance, might send out a group once or twice a year to help. Groups from Dominion, Citizens, Liberty Bank, you name it. We've had a lot of different work groups that come out, as a Yukon dressage team, 4-H clubs, Boy Scouts. But we also have many volunteers that come every single week, your husband being one of them, you in the past have been one, and they dedicate hours. Sometimes it's 1 hour to, sometimes it's 3 hours a day, 3 times a week. And they make a commitment to be there and work with either the horses or the riders. Some volunteers lead horses, some volunteers sidewalk beside riders, helping them understand or helping them attend or helping reiterate the instructor, the directions of the instructor. Some volunteers come and just want to come first thing in the morning when it's quiet and feed the horses. Others come and answer phones or do data entry. And then another wonderful group of volunteers, of course, our Board of Trustees. They are our guidance and our governance. These are folks that help to shape the organization. They provide me as the executive director support, and they provide that vision for the organization. And they support us out in the community and in outreach. Another huge portion of our volunteers come and help for some of our biggest benefits. June 13th this year, we have the big barn bash.
Oh, something's coming up. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
What's that going to be like?
Oh, well, we transform our indoor arena into a gala.
Wow.
So we lay down carpet. We have a seated dinner this year. Coffee's Deli will be catering.
Nice.
Yeah, Laysville Deli. And they will be providing a meal for about 600 people. We will have Sugar, the band is playing.
Oh, fun.
So it's a great night out in a great cause. We tell a story about High Hopes. Speaking of storytelling, we'll highlight one of our riders and families and the benefits. We will have a scholarship drive. We have a silent auction and a wonderful boutique, but usually the food is fantastic, the music is fun. It's a nice party with when you know you're supporting a great cause.
Oh, and that makes it perfect. It's a night out, but it's also for something else that's bigger than you again.
And it's all run by volunteers. We have an amazing group of people that dedicate hours and hours and hours for about a year into getting auction items and doing the decor and managing it to the T so that everyone who comes has a memorable night.
Oh, that sounds lovely. Well, I'm going to have to get tickets.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Good. Yeah. People can visit our website and save the date cards. They'll be out soon.
Oh, good. Good. And one of the things that I also saw is you have, well, let's back up a second, 1,519 participants. Mm-hmm. Tell me about who are the participants, who benefits from the program and from all these horses.
I think that is the true joy and the real crux of therapeutic riding. So the horse, years ago, ancient history, it was recognized that the horse, for folks in cavalry, even in ancient Roman times when soldiers were injured, they recognized that their healing was faster when they were reunited with their horses. So there's that human-animal bond that just perseverates in everything that we do. There is also a very physical element that happens when someone sits astride a horse. The horse's movement moves the human pelvis, that main building block of our body, in a three-dimensional manner, so forward and back, side to side, and rotationally. That movement can't be duplicated in any other situation. So for someone who's had abbreviated or arrested or abnormal development, maybe it's a child born with cerebral palsy, maybe it's a child with autism, maybe it's an adult who's suffered a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, you no longer have the normalized movement. And then other things start to develop. You either get high tone or low tone or sensory deficits or circulatory deficits. When you sit on the horse, all of a sudden your body gets this normalized input and it says, oh, yeah, I know. This is what. So we can, by understanding that movement and by then working with the horse in certain either adaptations, changes in pace or transitions or movement, we can do activities that will help to facilitate. If it's someone who has high tone or a lot of spasticity, we can do things to help relax that tone. For someone with lower tone, we can put them on a horse that helps beef up that and helps improve strength and trunk strength. For a child or someone with autism, the steady movement of the horse will give them that first opportunity to make eye contact. Or changing diaphragmatic and postural balance can help to improve ability for speech and language. So many different ways that the horse can impact the individual. And I think that's where that number, that over 1,500 individuals, not only do we do direct service, and that includes from children, we have preschool early intervention classes, we have recreational groups that come after they're adults with developmental delays, we have school groups that come and there we're working on everything from learning skills, cognitive, character development, trying to reduce truancy, trying to reduce anxiety and depression, children and adults. So the myriad of benefits, it just goes on and on.
Right.
And our work with veterans or families of veterans, helping veterans in developing emotional agility, because the horse is a true reflection. So if I was in a hyperarousal state, which many of our, say, veterans suffering from PTSD might be, and they try to have an interaction with the horse is going to say, no way, thank you, I'm leaving.
Right.
And that's going to help that individual realize, okay, I've got to get some control here. This is what I'm projecting, this is how I'm feeling, and then teach some skills that will help to give them the ability to moderate that behavior and that emotion.
They're such smart animals, aren't they?
They are. Well, and it's that reflection. It's that true, authentic perspective that the horse will give back to us. And that sensitivity. You know, the horse doesn't hold a grudge, so they don't care who you are, what you bring with you, as long as you're authentic.
Well, that's really beautiful. Well, I just am amazed at all of that you're doing, and with the veterans again, just thinking about that, and when they're coming back, I'm imagining that might be their first real relationship where they could kind of start to let go of whatever it was that caused the trauma in the first place. And maybe that's true of a lot of the participants, where they can first start to feel that trust with the animal, and then from there I would imagine that bridges are built where they can extend that to other animals, other people, their family, people who they might need to forgive, that kind of thing, where it kind of would be a self-building.
All of the above, I would say. You know, I think the relationship and, well, simply sitting astride a horse and many people have done it once or twice. I do believe that there is an element, you know, we can't control everything the horse does.
No.
And it is an element, it is an activity with risk, right? You're sitting on top of a 1,000-pound animal
right.
that their natural instinct is to leave. And when you confront personal fears and you overcome those, you develop your self-confidence. That's how we grow. That's how we develop. And all of a sudden you recognize that I was fearful. I didn't think I can do this. Look, I'm sitting on a horse. It's going left when I ask it. It's going to go right when I ask it. It stops. I can make it go. Holy moly, I'm okay.
Right.
So simply that movement for anyone, you or me, when we sit on a horse, that lends itself to feeling good about who we are and what we're doing. For someone with a disability, often those choices don't exist. You know, for someone, a child growing up, sometimes they're in a protected capsule, they're in a wheelchair, they can't always have control of, and now all of a sudden the horse can be their legs, they can go out on the trail.
Nice.
Or if they're in a carriage, they can go faster, they can have the reins, they can do the steering. So there's very much that. I think also we're seeing in so many of our 8 to 12-year-old kids in schools, anxiety and depression are real. It happens. Life is very complicated, and the world we live in is so unpredictable, unsafe, whether it's they're doing armed intruder drills in school and they're hearing those words, they're seeing the news, they're realizing the instability in our climate and the world around us. It lends itself to all of these awful elements of not being in control, not being able to manage, and all of a sudden now they can have a relationship of trust with another sentient being, the horse, 1,000-pound, warm, fuzzy animal that just wants to be with you. And that's empowering. That builds self-esteem and self-concept, and it gives us that sense of, I feel good. Plus, the environment, we utilize, I'm very much an advocate of the concepts of One Health. Healthy people, healthy animals, healthy environment. We're not going to be here if we can't take care of all of those elements. And we can't be isolated as humans. We have to think about the world we live in and the animals that we affect. And I think that environment at High Hopes, that rural environment for kids, whether they're from inner city or they've never had that opportunity, they can come out and they learn how to care for an animal. They learn how to respect not only another person, but an animal. How to use the brushes, how to take care of them, how to take care of the equipment, how to gain responsibility, and subsequently how that impacts the environment.
And that's part of what you're doing as well, where the kids or the participants actually get to maybe feed or groom or...
Absolutely. Horsemanship is a great piece to that. The horse isn't just a tool. It's far from that. It's something that they have responsibility for. There's feelings. There's respect for not only the horse, but everyone else in the team, the sidewalkers, the leaders, the instructors.
Well, and that communication between all of them, because they're working as a team, absolutely. They have to follow the instructor, the the leader of the horse and then the sidewalker all need to be in sync, helping that child. And then there's a group of kids, so they're not alone in that situation.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and I remember when I did it, I was always amazed by the language development, the concepts that were being taught. Sometimes the colors, sometimes the days of the week, sometimes it was little puns or sentences or name 5 things in a different category.
Yeah.
So constantly working on the brain while working on the body, and then in a social setting so that they were taking turns and listening and responding appropriately. So
we need you back as a sidewalker. Come on, we've got your husband. We need you too. Yeah.
Well, and you did a beautiful job, I think, of recognizing the volunteers. When you have somebody a volunteer of the month, I have to tell you, my husband came home so happy, and I took a picture of it from the your
nice.
website page and put it up on his Facebook page, and I think he got about 100 likes on that.
Great.
Like,
that's great.
Great job, Rich. Like,
That's
you're
great.
a good sidewalker.
Well, you know, in today's day and age, it's very, very hard. Our volunteerism as a whole is decreasing. People's lives are complicated. They have less free time. And we also find that most people are reluctant to give a continuous commitment week after week. A lot of people will say, yeah, I'll do the polar plunge for a cause because that's 2 hours. I have to raise a little money. I can do it once and feel good about what they've done. High Hopes goes back to the relationships, the consistency, being there for somebody else, knowing that that your presence is critical to someone else's success. And that is something that we as humans, we can't live in isolation.
No.
We need each other.
Absolutely.
We need each other. We need other animals, and we need a healthy environment in which to live. And I think that's something that High Hopes, one of the things that I've learned through the years and that many people have said to me is that High Hopes creates an environment of unconditional acceptance.
That's beautiful.
It is.
Where else can you get
exactly. And you know, I think about the volunteers whose lives we've impacted, people that particularly some of our young volunteers. We're just getting ready to start doing a heavy recruitment for summer volunteers. And a lot of those volunteers are teens, 14 to 16, 17, too young to work in the workforce. Parents are saying, you've got to do something useful this summer, no sitting around on your devices. And they sometimes reluctantly, sometimes voluntarily, sometimes with a little help, show up and do some camp activities. And, you know, we watch how they grow and change, even just in a 1-week camp experience, working with someone with disabilities, working with other volunteers. And for some of those younger volunteers, it helps to define who they become in life, where they go to school. They become special education teachers, physical therapists, occupational therapists. They go on to do other things, working with people with disabilities. But no matter what they do or who they do, it helps to improve their tolerance and acceptance of others. So that, you know, that kind of messaging we need a whole lot more of in this world.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that you have all kinds of people in this program. And I always told my kids, whatever job you do in the summer, it's probably not going to be something you'll do for any length of period of time, but you're going to be interacting with people different than people in our house or people in our neighborhood, perhaps. And those are really good life lessons. And you never know when you're going to need that lesson.
Yeah.
So that's really amazing.
Yeah.
No, so
we actually have called this year the year of the volunteer, because we could not do what we do without the volunteer support that we have. So, you know, if there's one message you asked me today, what would I like people to be aware of? Not only the work that we do, you know, as a nonprofit in the community, but we need volunteers.
Okay.
We always need volunteers.
And how do they get a hold of you?
They can go to our website. They can give us a call. There's actually an application you can do online. It's just highhopestr.org, and you know, it will enrich each person's life, as you and your husband can attest to.
Well, for me, it was my favorite part of the day. A lot of people would go. Maybe go get a beer, a glass of wine on a Friday afternoon. I'd go to High Hopes, and then to me it was just therapeutic for myself simultaneously, and I would just relax, and I wasn't in charge. I didn't have to make any of the decisions. I just was helping the team and helping the little one that was on the horse.
Yeah. Well, and it's good exercise. You're walking around, you know, so instead of doing a solo walk, you can walk with a horse. How much more fun is that?
Well, the grounds are so beautiful, and for a while you were having people take art classes.
Yeah, you know, one of my my dreams this spring. I hope to do an open house with and set up some stations where folks can come and work with artists on our grounds to do like en plein air painting of horses.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, that we did the painting classes, I think, in conjunction with Lyme Art Academy.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I saw that Lyme Academy
Yeah,
of Fine Arts,
yeah,
and they did beautiful paintings, and you
Yeah.
had some really good products that came out of that.
Yeah, well, we've got the horses, we've got the material.
Absolutely,
Right. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Now, are there other programs like your program in other parts of the country?
There are. We are a member. We're fully accredited with our national association, PATH. And within PATH, there are hundreds of programs all over. There are a number right here in the state of Connecticut. We're very fortunate in that we are one of the older programs in the country. We are one of the few programs that does do consistent training and education. Owning our own facility and our own horses is certainly a big benefit to us, and many programs aren't able to do that. They're not operating at the scope. But within Connecticut, there's a good, half dozen or so. So there's a state association, and then we have a regional association too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with horses up in Ithaca?
I did. I had horses at home before then, and then when I went to college, I actually brought my horse to college.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh,
that was
that's great.
fun.
Now, how do people get to High Hopes if you're a young, like pre-teen kind of age where you want to do some volunteer work? Is there an age restriction? Do you
There
have to be
is. We
13?
typically ask them that we look for folks who are 14 and older.
14, okay.
The key factor there is someone needs to be able to be responsible, large enough physically, but also responsible enough to attend to a rider or pay attention to the horse and really be able to focus. And 14 tends to be that age. We have had instances where folks have been younger. We also have had instances where younger folks volunteer with parents in their
that would be
supervision.
nice, yes.
The participants will find us from a number of different ways. Sometimes it's directly through schools. If there are any veterans families out there looking for services, we want to see you. That's been a really hard. We are committed to serving our veterans, our active service providers, our first responders. Those are types that we would welcome to come in and visit us and get involved, even as a volunteer or a participant. But our schools, we have school groups that participate, we have group homes, we have individuals that come on their own. They're referred for a number of different reasons, counselors, mental health professionals, physical therapists, occupational therapists, all of those. We have a collaboration with Safe Futures out of New London.
Yeah.
And we also have with, again, a number of schools, the Norwich Vet Center we collaborate with. So we are very receptive and open to exploring new populations and ways that we can help others.
Well, thank you so much for being on time. We're just about out of time.
Great.
It's just a great pleasure having you here. And
Well.
I think people will go on your website and will be in touch with you. And I'm hoping you get a lot of good volunteers and a lot of people attending your Big Barn Bash on June 13th.
Super. Well, thank you so much, Kate. Lovely to be here
Oh my
and
gosh.
be with you.
The
We really
pleasure was
appreciate
mine.
it.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you.